Hey cousins! Today I'm turning my best friend's two cats into fantasy characters. I don't want to just turn them into a cat girl and cat boy. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I always prefer having a little bit of lore and story to help me develop my designs. So, what sort of setting are we gonna go for? I was thinking something with magic. Since my best friend's mother is from Indonesia, I decided to go for a Javanese-inspired fantasy world set in the Majapahit era, which was from the 1300s to 1500s. The main gist of today's characters is that these are actually regular human characters, but they have been cursed to become cat people. To differentiate them from the actual in real life cats, I'll be calling the real cats Baby and Tony, and the characters they're based off, Budi and Tanto respectively. Let's get started with Budi. Baby is my friend's beloved cat. She is very timid. I tried to take footage of her for this video, but she was so scared that she just ran off, and I had to get on the floor to take footage of her like she's some sort of mythical animal. She's scared of strangers, and apparently that I count. I'm so sad. But when she's comfortable at home, surrounded by people she's familiar with, Baby is apparently quite loud. The bestie also said she's a good hunter and that Baby uses her claws a lot. She's also apparently very affectionate. So I decided that the character based off Baby, Budi, should be the relatable sort. She's shy and timid in unfamiliar situations too, but Budi mostly just lives in the village she's grown up in, so she is pretty comfortable with her family and the people around her whole life. But then, everything changes one night. She wakes up to find one of her family members screaming as a leopard cat, white as ash, attacks their livestock or something. I don't know. Leopard cats are actually pretty small. They look like the size of a regular house cat. So Budi goes and she beats it, and then she accidentally kills it. So over the next few weeks, she ends up growing fur on her face and arms. Her fingernails change into sharp claws, and she grows ears and a tail. She and her family are horrified. Her family tells everybody else in the village that Budi is just very sick, and they try to keep her in hiding. But Budi is so scared of herself and disgusted by her new form that she runs off in the middle of the night. She's very afraid that she will somehow drag her family into this mess if people try to get her out of hiding because they're concerned she has some sort of contagious disease, and then they find out she's some sort of monster. She doesn't want to be hunted down, and she doesn't want her family to try and protect her from being hunted down. I'm giving Budi sharp claws and a distinctly short tail based off the actual cat. So I did forget about the tail in these iterations though. The leopard cat she whacked too hard is pretty much just a regular Sunda leopard cat, but if it was white and also magical. I did research Javanese mythology to find something for this video, but I was unable to actually find anything I could work into somehow getting turned into a cat person. So let's just assume the white cat is a malevolent magical animal of some sort and its ghost has possessed her or something as revenge, and now she's just cursed. Her clothing is structure-wise not the most complex because she doesn't have much jewelry or even shoes because she's a homeless cat woman. She's wearing a kemben, a wrap dress, and I like it a lot because it makes her look rectangular. Cats are rectangular. Alongside her lean figure, it makes Budi look agile and stable. I imagine she's quite the tree climber. I'm experimenting with color palettes and hair colors in the iterations here. Since she's not exactly drowning in accessories and her outfit isn't that complicated because she's only wearing a kemben, I am putting a lot of emphasis on the patterns of her clothes. I am very, very in love with batik, which originates from Indonesia. It's a type of wax-resist dyed cloth. Basically, you can either apply the wax with a canting or with a block stem, and then you paint the fabric with dye, and then you boil the fabric to get the wax off, and then repeat until you get batik. You get those beautiful patterns. I love batik. It's found in Singapore and Malaysia too. Go outside for long enough here and you'll surely find somebody wearing a batik print. There are so many patterns I looked into. I went for floral designs and star-based designs in the iterations, but then I fell in love with one specific design I didn't do in these iterations. This design is called the Alas Alasan, which means of the forest or like the forest. I loved the addition of animals and flowers and plants, and I was like, yeah, this fits with the nature theme real good. So I ended up just going with that instead of anything in her existing designs. It helps connect her to the whole, because Bodhi is a forest girl now because she's homeless and she lives in the forest like a cat. Actually, the reason why I chose to base both characters off big cats instead of regular house cats is because apparently there were no house cats during the Majapahit era. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll just work with that. And I found the next closest thing. As you can see, batik patterns are pretty complex, so obviously I'm gonna try and make it easier for myself. The good thing about Clip Studio Paint is that you can automate literally anything if it involves a lot of clicking buttons. So I can't do the art for you obviously, but it can basically have the work of making patterns. What you need when making seamless patterns is a square canvas, and you need to split it into 4 parts using the grid. Then basically, you swap around the squares so that each time the program multiplies the art you made, the patterns will be seamless. Luckily, I already found an auto action helpfully produced by another artist on the Clip Studio Paint marketplace for free, so it will do all the swapping around for me. I am so happy. All I need to do is follow the instructions and name my layers properly so they are targeted correctly. And then I need to test out the pattern while drawing it, obviously. So I'll be doing 1 pattern each for Bodhi and Tanto. So let's move on to Tanto, shall we? Tanto is based off Tony the cat, and he is very different from Baby, evidently. He is far more relaxed and far more chill, so you can see me like petting him, and I have picked him up before. He is a large cat, and apparently he's also very naughty sometimes because he sometimes steals Baby's food. Since Tony is such a pampered and lazy cat, I decided the character I would base off him should be a prince. So Tanto is a spoiled prince favored in the court. He's one of the younger princes who really doesn't care about running the empire, but he does want to be well liked. My idea for Tanto is that even though he is very clearly different from Bodhi in many ways, he is also very similar to her in a few very striking ways. A year ago, he was a regular human prince, and then he heard that a faraway village in his kingdom was getting terrorized by some sort of monstrous big cat. So the villagers had taken up the custom of feeding their livestock and their buffaloes that they used for farming and the game that they all hunted just so they could feed this big white tiger that lurked in a nearby forest. The tiger was too lazy to hunt on its own, and if the villagers didn't feed it enough, the tiger would go and feast on the villagers instead. Tanto was entranced by the idea of becoming a hero, and he also did feel at least a little bad for the villagers too. So in a very overconfident manner, he decided to go down to that village and hunt down the tiger himself. In a very startling turn of events, he actually wins the fight against the big tiger. He returns home a hero, and he thinks he's gotten the last laugh, but like Bodhi, he gets the short end of the stick in exchange for his heroism. He ends up transforming over the course of several weeks, just like Bodhi. But he doesn't run away like Bodhi. He straight up gets kicked out of the palace, and his brothers attempt to hunt him down because they think he's some sort of demon, monster, ghost thing. Tanto is actually really strong now though, with his newfound tiger-like characteristics. He ends up spending a lot of time hiding and running and sleeping and more hiding. He's very far away from his original home, but there are still search parties sent out by the royal court trying to find him. Tanto is now a homeless nomad. He lives in the forest, and he occasionally goes near people's villages or near towns. He steals people's stuff sometimes. And of course, well, he does need to hunt. He does eat raw meat now. So sometimes when he's really hungry, he'll eat people's buffalo and horses. Tanto is actually pretty depressed about the whole situation, but he's trying his best to cope. I picture him as being the sort of person who talks to birds and monitor lizards like they're his friends. The idea of him having an animal companion like a Disney princess is very entertaining. I think we should give him an emotional support monkey. It'd be so funny if the first time he meets Budi finds him talking to his pet monkey. Budi would have tracked him down via scent because she just knows they are two of a kind and she's desperately searching for help in her quest to find a cure. So, unlike Tanto, Budi is very fixated on curing herself and returning back to society at any cost. Now that she's in this uniquely difficult situation, Budi finds herself to be far more scheming and resilient than she thought she was capable of being. Budi actually already knows Tanto by the time they meet because he passed by her village a few months back and he ate one of their water buffalo and he really made like everybody very upset, but he also really scared them quite a bit, so they spent a lot of time exchanging ghost stories about him. Budi is still pretty mad about it. They would exchange stories the first time they met because this is the first time they've met somebody who is like them, and especially for Tanto, this is the first time in a while they've actually properly socialized. But Tanto would have basically zero information on finding a cure, and Budi would cry because she's so sad, and then Tanto awkwardly attempts to comfort her, and then Budi is like, you know what? We should both find a cure together, and then Tanto agrees because he has nothing better to do, and also he's really lonely. So while Budi got cursed by a white leopard cat, Tanto got cursed by a white tiger. So instead of having claws, I decided he should have big teeth instead. He also only has a sarong because he's homeless. So I drew their final designs together and I added a natural background. Since Baby and Tony are basically cat siblings, the characters also have a very sibling-like relationship because of their shared pain and their similar curses, but they also argue a lot. Unlike Budi, Tanto leans heavily into his animal-like characteristics. For example, he spends half the day or more sleeping and then he wakes up really late at night, just like a real cat. And of course, he eats raw meat just like a tiger. Budi, however, tries her best to remain human despite it being very difficult to go against her new nature. It often causes friction between the two of them, especially since Tanto is an ex-prince and Budi used to be just a regular village girl, so they're even more different in that way too. Budi is also really against Tanto's moral actions. Tanto views his hunting as survival, but Budi thinks he's too lazy to hunt ethically. So Budi will often scold him for eating animals that clearly belong to other people. But then Tanto is like, you know what, it's more efficient than hunting wild game. Those little spots Budi has are actually based off the leopard cat, and Tanto will of course have tiger stripes, and his face is based off Tony the cat's face. But because he's more transformed than Budi, because he's been cursed for longer, he gets blue eyes and Budi will still have dark eyes. I also changed quite a bit from Budi's iterations to her final design. I made her hair grey so she looks like she's Tanto's sister, and in the iterations I made her clothes blue to make her feel more magical, but then I ended up changing her fabric color to a more common color scheme in batik. So this dark brown with a lighter cream and yellow is really common in batik. I really like this palette because it makes Budi look more natural and down to earth. I decided Tanto should be the blue one instead because it makes him look more mystical and expensive and royal. I settled on a specific pattern for him, which is Sekar Jagat. It means flower world and it has islands of different patterns which represent beauty and diversity apparently. I also think it helps represent Tanto's fractured self between his current self, his past self, and then his human side and his tiger side. I also made sure to include the parang patterns in his batik because in the past that pattern used to be only reserved for royalty. And these are their final designs. Budi and Tanto pondering near a pond. I have no idea how they would cure themselves, but I already have a happy ending to the story. It involves Tanto and Budi defeating Tanto's brothers and the people they hired to go and hunt them down. Tanto and Budi then somehow manage to cure themselves afterward, and then they return to Budi's village cured, or at least partially cured. Tanto gives up royalty and he joins Budi's family as her new brother, and they all live happily ever after. The end. This was my first time making very intricate patterns on fabric and it was loads of fun. In the future, I will definitely be designing way more batik clothes for my other OC since batik is so commonplace in this region of the world and I definitely need lots of practice. It was super fun to exercise my brain trying to figure out how to make interesting characters based off my friends' fur babies. So cousins, this year I actually want to try making money off my art for the first time in my life. So I'm gonna be selling adoptables on Ko-fi. I also have another pitch. So if you want me to make your pets into characters, I can make a video just like this one for you. I'm aiming for 2 to 3 characters. So you can apply on my website. You can submit pictures of your pets, and you can give me as much or as little lore or ideas as you want. So if I pick your pet, I'll design a surprise design for you in a special video, and you can only see the design in that video. Afterwards, you can buy the design based off your pet at a discount for full copyright, and you can do whatever you want with that character. But if you don't want to do that also, it's okay, because then I'll just put up the design on my Ko-fi as an adoptable so somebody else can adopt the character and make a story with it. If you're interested, please fill up the form on my Notion site in the description. Thank you so much, cousins. See ya!